I will now call the May 5th, 2025 Planning and Zoning Commission regular meeting to order at 5:30 PM. Tiffany, please call the roll.
Good evening and welcome to the May 5th, 2025 Planning and Zoning Open Session Meeting. Commissioners, please state present if in attendance. Commissioner Morales,
Present.
Commissioner Walker,
Present.
Commissioner Jurassic,
Present.
Commissioner Rhodes,
Present.
Commissioner Carney, Commissioner Prager,
Present.
Commissioner Longino,
Present.
Vice Chair Smith,
Present.
Chair Krause.
Present.
For the record, a quorum is present with 8 commissioners in attendance. Commissioner Carney is not in attendance. Thank you.
Thank you, Tiffany. Please join us. Commissioner Morales will give the invocation and Commissioner Smith will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Join me, please. Gracious Heavenly Father, we come before you today to thank you for all our blessings. We ask that you bless each person that is here tonight. And as we discuss important matters, Father, we ask for your guidance and your wisdom, and let whatever we do and decide is pleasing to you. We give you all the honor and all the glory. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please be seated. We will now confirm the meeting agenda items. There's been a request by the applicant to table item 5, FY-25-13-ZC. Are there any questions and comments regarding this? If there are no objections, I will entertain a motion.
Make a motion to table FY 25-13-ZC.
Second.
A motion has been made by Commissioner Rhodes and a second by Commissioner Morales to table item 5. Tiffany, may we have a vote?
Commissioner Morales,
Aye.
Commissioner Walker,
Aye.
Commissioner Jurassic,
Aye.
Commissioner Rhodes,
Aye.
Commissioner Prager, Commissioner Longino,
Aye.
Vice Chair Smith,
Aye.
Chair Krause.
Aye.
Vote is unanimous and the motion carries.
Item 5 is tabled by unanimous consent. We will now confirm the remaining meeting agenda items. Are there any questions or comments? If there are no objections, I will entertain a motion.
Make a motion.
Second.
Motion has been made by Commissioner Rhodes and a second by Commissioner Morales to approve the remaining meeting agenda items. Tiffany, may we have a vote?
Commissioner Morales,
Aye.
Commissioner Walker,
Aye.
Commissioner Jurassic,
Aye.
Commissioner Rhodes,
Aye.
Commissioner Prager,
Aye.
Commissioner Longino,
Aye.
Vice Chair Smith,
Aye.
Chair Krause.
Aye.
The vote is unanimous and the motion carries.
The remaining meeting agenda items are approved by unanimous consent. Are there any public comments at this time? If so, please state your name and city of residence for the record. Limit comments to 3 minutes. We will have a timer on the screen for your reference.
Chair, I'm seeing no hands raised online.
Sign up outside, then. Sit here and.
You can talk now, or you'll have a chance to talk like
On
on
the
the
next
next
one.
item.
On the next items, when we get to those particular items that you're here for.
No, it's confusing.
On the consent agenda is approval of item 4. April 21st meeting minutes. If there are no objections, I will entertain a motion.
I move that they be approved as presented.
Motion has been made by Commissioner Morales and a second by Commissioner Smith to approve item 4 on the consent agenda. Tiffany, may we have a vote?
Commissioner Morales,
Aye.
Commissioner Walker,
Aye.
Commissioner Jurassic,
Aye.
Commissioner Rhodes,
Aye.
Commissioner Prager,
Aye.
Commissioner Longino,
Aye.
Vice Chair Smith,
Aye.
Chair Krause.
Aye.
The vote is unanimous and the motion carries.
Item number 5, which is FY 25 13 ZC, has been tabled per the previous consent agenda items. We'll move on to item number 6, which is FY 25 14 ZC. Hold a public hearing to discuss and recommend action on a rezoning and binding site development plan request from agricultural and plan development general retail to plan development neighborhood services on 12.302 plus or minus acres located in the George W. Lindsay Survey, abstract number 513, City of Temple, Bell County, Texas, addressed as 12,000 FM 2305 and 12,016 FM 2305. As discussed in the work session, we're going to open the public hearing, even though we're going to table this at this time. We will now open the public hearing. So if you wish to speak and are attending in person, please come to the podium. If you're viewing the meeting online, please virtually raise your hand, provide your full name and city of residence for the record. Limit comments to 3 minutes, and we will have a timer on the screen for your reference.
I know. Hello, my name's Andreas Wooten. I live in, well, my address is Belton, but my actual physical location is Temple. So I'm at 101 Eagle Landing. Primarily just for the developer and for you guys, it's my 3 basic concerns there. Since my house is really close to that development, I mean, I can already hear the Commonwealth from my house and the pickleball that's going on over there. But drainage, there's an issue, has been an issue with the way that was accepted by the city from the county when that area was annexed. So I'd like to make sure that the drainage is done properly and surveyed properly, because my house has a 20-foot wide city-owned owner-maintained easement behind it. And even in today's rain, it floods no matter what I do. So drainage is a big deal. Also, looks like the entrance that they've got for this, there are 2 of them, but one goes through a previous, I guess, already built NS type area by the Commonwealth. The other one comes out directly across from North Cliff. If you're there at any time during the summer, traffic there is unbearable most days of the week, especially on a weekend. And anytime between 7 a.m. and 9 and about 3:30, 4 o'clock until about 5:30 on the school year. All right. Traffic gets really bad, especially when the buses start stopping right there. It's a very short distance from where this entrance is proposed to where the entrance to my subdivision is at, which is Eagle Landing or Eagle Oaks. And the other one is, of course, noise. I'd like to know what's going to be done with site. I believe it's still 16. Yeah, site 16 on this. That's the one that would be most visible to my particular house at this point, and there's nothing here that has any kind of physical or visual barrier for noise and other things like that. And now that it's changed to townhomes, I believe you were saying earlier, the other gentleman, are those gonna be 1-story, 2-story? Because I walk out my front door and I already see the water tower. So those are my basic concerns, since we're gonna table this and it's gonna be changed around later on. It's like, what do I get to see? I mean, some of you guys I know are realtors, I can tell by the names. But location. Nobody's gonna want to buy my house if all they see is the back of somebody else's condo and a water tower.
Are you
So-
saying after Commonwealth was built, your drainage got worse in your area?
It is a low spot. It's not worse, but it's definitely not any better. My concern is that as you build more impervious surfaces, getting closer and closer to my home, therefore we have more drainage coming off of there. And based on where my house is at, there's a low spot between the main entrance and the curve. That already is a drainage. It was there before my house was built. It was accepted by the city when the house was built, after they annexed it from the county. I've had to do several improvements that cost me a pretty fair amount of money. And it's still, even in the last couple of days' rain, it's kind of at capacity. So my concern is that if that drainage is not built properly to where it goes to, like everything else, right? Flows downhill. As long as it's going to the downhill spot that isn't in mine, it'll be okay. But if you force it down where I live, you're gonna flood the 5 houses right next to me and me.
Yeah, and I mainly wanted for the developer or the owner to hear that so they could make sure that they're watching out for that when they're giving us this.
Yeah,
next
I
plan.
mean, there's some weirdness going on there with elevations and things, because if you go across the street, it's perfectly fine. If you go out there onto West Adams and get to the opposite side of the street, it's fine. It goes down one way and down the other and heads to the lake. It's not a problem. But once you get on the other side of West Adams on the side that I live on, then it becomes a problem. And some of that was from the original development years ago before I moved in. So I've been there 12 years and it's been a problem ever since I've been there, no matter what I do.
Got it. Thank you.
So sorry, I didn't mean to take so long, but that's all,
Well, that's
all I
fine.
had. I think I got it. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Mr. Wood. Would someone else like to speak?
Yes, I would.
We have one raising their hand online as well. Morris, if you'll hold on just a second, we have one more in person and then you should be able to speak at that point.
Hello, my name is David Viekler. I own the property at 274 Morgan's Point Road, which is actually right behind where this new development is looking to be. Been at that same property for 18 years. Bought it, it was on a private drive, beautiful. Now I have water tower, bourbon bar, and now we're looking at, it's basically starting to surround my whole property. As the other gentleman said, you know, I hear the music from Commonwealth every night, and went and talked to someone that claimed that they were the owner, finding out it's not. And he said, "You must go to bed too early. We'll look into it," and blew me off, and kind of leaves a sore spot in a way. But I'm just more concerned now that he's talking about townhomes. If those townhomes are going to be along the backside of my property, it's not as detrimental as if I'm going to have a business behind my property. I've got a water tower in a bar parking lot next to me now. You know, my taxes have gone, like everybody else's, have gone crazy. And what does that do for my property value? I mean, I just, you know, are we going to put fences up? What can we do to make it so it's good for the people that have been there for so many years? Because the commercial property is coming onto it's not going into the gated community. It's coming to us. So that's all I got to say.
Thank you.
Biegler? That's the latest that was submitted today, so you've got, feel free to give me a call and we can talk about that.
And then we have Mr. Morris.
Yeah, we got one more.
Okay.
It's Brian Morris, 100 Eagle Landing Drive. I live opposite Andreas there, and the development is going to be adjacent to my site. I've already voiced my concerns to Jason Deckman as soon as I received the letter of rezoning. Obviously, I'm concerned, like those two gentlemen, with regards to the noise and how the sites are going to be distributed. I'm concerned with industrial sites. Obviously, noise will be detrimental. I'm within 200 feet of the new development. And as I say, I voiced my concern with Jason Deckman, and I will certainly attend the City Council first reading.
Thank you, Mr. Morris. Would someone else like to?
Can I
I'm sorry.
just
Yeah.
finally point out that like the other two gentlemen, is really the property taxes. Now this is going to be detrimental for certainly for selling the property with what is proposed 200 feet away from me. And I would like to know eventually what the council are going to do with regards to property taxes.
Thank you, Mr. Morris. Anything else?
No, that's all.
Thank you. We appreciate it. Would anyone else like to speak during the open session? Hearing.
Josh, did you or Garrett want to? It's up to you.
And we're gonna delay for a month, is that right?
Yes, sir.
Hey, I'm Josh Pearson. I'm the owner of Keljo Properties, owner of the development here. Now, this will be our 5th project in this area that we're working on as we move west. At every opportunity, we've talked to folks around us. We try to be the best possible neighbors we can. I'm going to talk to Mr. Buchla after this about that particular noise issue that he had with us. But we try to be good neighbors. And when we're thinking about what we want to do and how we want to develop, we don't want to stunt development. But we also know that development is coming. That's a sign of a good, healthy community. We want to create more community. We want to create more business. We want to do so in a responsible way. So we're going to work on that with the folks around, and we're going to bring you back a plan that hopefully, maybe everybody doesn't agree with, but hopefully it'll give a little bit less heartburn in some of these pain point areas. So
More clarification.
more clarification, exactly.
Thank you. We will now close the public hearing if there are no more questions or comments, and I'll move on to item 7. I'm sorry. We need.
I'll make a motion to table FY 25-14-ZC.
Motion has been made by Commissioner Rhodes and a second by Commissioner Jurassic to table item 6 FY 25-14 ZC. May we have a vote?
Yes. Commissioner Morales,
Aye.
Commissioner Walker,
Aye.
Commissioner Jurassic,
Aye.
Commissioner Rhodes,
Aye.
Commissioner Prager, Commissioner Longino,
Aye.
Vice Chair Smith,
Aye.
Chair Krause.
Aye.
The vote is unanimous and the motion carries.
We'll move on to item number 7, which is FY 25-17 PLT. Consider and take action on the preliminary plat of Meadow Lake, a 137.66 plus or minus acre, 434 lot, 21 block, 17 tract, mixed use subdivision in the Maximo Moreno Survey, abstract number 14, City of Temple, Bell County, Texas, addressed as 7002 and 7246 Old Highway 95. The case will be presented by Principal Planner Cheryl Maxwell.
Thank you, Chair Krause. No exceptions are requested with this plat, so the Planning Commission has final approval authority. So this shows the location of the property. This is on the south side of FM 93. It has frontage on FM 93, 93 Spur, and Old Highway 95, and is directly across from the Leon Reserve development, which is also on this meeting's agenda. And then this is an aerial view. There is a residence on the property. Otherwise, it's basically undeveloped at this time. And I do want to point out this is the TISD site, which is outside of the plat boundary. So this property was rezoned to a planned development district in February 2024. It was for a mixed-use development to include single-family 3, which is shown here with the purple color, townhomes in the yellow color, and then Lot 48 is proposed as a mix of multifamily 2 and general retail. The PD ordinance also include minimum and maximum area requirements for the different uses for SF3 for the townhomes. These are all satisfied. On the MF2 GR lot, the lot 48, each use has a maximum 20% allowed. Right now, it's undetermined what that mix will be. So both of those combined right now is at 26%. But again, that will be ironed out when the actual percentages for each use is actually known. So again, the MF2 cannot exceed 20% of the area, and the general retail also 20% of the area. I want to point out lot 31, block 2 at the corner is proposed for a future lift station. All of the lots meet or exceed the minimum area and dimensional standards. And I think that's it for that one. There are 17 tracks proposed for various uses shown in this table. Most of them, or several of them, are for utility easements and drainage easements, which will be dedicated to the city, some for right-of-way, some for park and related parking that will be owned and maintained by the HOA. So there is a CIP project in this area for the future elementary school. It includes improvements that will include a turn lanes on FM 93, widening FM 93 spur to 4 12-foot wide lanes, drainage improvements, traffic signals, landscaping, 12-inch water line, and 15-inch sewer line. So on this exhibit, you can see the green represents the sewer line extension, the blue for the water line, and then the roadway is shown with the red. I want to point out that this will include realigning the 93 spur intersections at FM 93, so it lines up directly with the Cross Timbers Boulevard on the Leon Reserve property. And the divided roadway will run along the east side of the TISD property and continue southward to the south boundary of the plat. And this is noted as Street V in the plat. So regarding access, the property has frontage on FM 93, which on the thoroughfare plan is a major arterial. Also has frontage on Old Highway 95, which is a minor arterial, and then on 93 spur. So 93 spur and Street V will basically function as the community collector street. The collector street on the thoroughfare plan is shown with the orange dash line. This will be realigned slightly, so it's not bisecting the property, but the two combined will meet the requirement for a community collector street. The other streets will be constructed as local streets. The townhomes will have access via alleys. They'll either be a 20-foot right-of-way, 18-foot pavement, or 26-foot right-of-way and 24-foot pavement. And then coming back to FM 93, which is a TxDOT highway, access is prohibited to FM 93 from Lot 48. And a TIA for this development that also included the Leon Reserve property on the north side was required and was approved by TxDOT with these conditions. A signal at FM 93 and the 93 spur across Timbers Boulevard and also Old Highway 95 following partial completion of the two developments. Left turn and right turn decel lanes on FM 93 at the intersection with 93 spur across Timbers. Aguayo Way constructed as a right in, right out access. Again, that's for the Leon Reserve property. And left turn decel lanes constructed on FM 93 at Old Highway 95 with signalization. So regarding the entrance requirements, there's 432 residential lots, which requires a minimum of 3 alternate design entrances since it's over 300 lots. The requirement is basically met. We essentially reviewed it per phase and section, but overall it's satisfied as well. They're providing 2 alternate design entrances, which have a 41-foot pavement width and basically count as each one counts as 2 standard entrances. An alternate design entrance will accommodate up to 150 dwelling units. One standard entrance accommodates up to 75 dwelling units. So we reviewed it again in sections. If you look at the bottom one, phase 1, section 1, and section 2, it's 200 dwelling units. They have 1 alternate design and 1 standard, which would accommodate 225 dwellings. Phase 2, section 1 on the upper corner here has 142 dwelling units with 1 alternate design entrance and 1 standard, which again would accommodate up to 225 dwelling units. And then phase 2 at the bottom has 90 dwelling units and 2 standard entrances, which would accommodate up to 150 dwelling units. On the street projections, those are required on average of every 1,000 feet for adjacent properties. This has been satisfied to the south. There is an exception that was administratively approved to the west due to the location of the railroad. So on the utility side, again, with the CIP projects, water and sewer improvements are proposed, a 12-inch water line and a 15-inch sewer line. This exhibit just shows the existing lines in the vicinity. Again, there's currently no sewer lines in this area. The applicant will be extending 6- and 8-inch water and sewer lines throughout the subdivision. And the proposed sewer lift station on lot 31, block 2, again, was located at the corner. Fire hydrants will be provided as required by the fire code. And there is a water well located on tract A that's required to be plugged prior to final plat signatures. With regard to the park fee, the total fee would be $97,200. The applicant has indicated at this point that they will pay the fee. Again, nothing is required with the preliminary, so this can be ironed out a little bit more with phase 1. At this point, that's what they are proposing. If so, the additional fee will apply when the multifamily portion is developed as well. This is basically just for the 432 residential lots. They do have several tracts that total 7 acres that are proposed for parkland and parking. Those will be owned and maintained by the HOA. And do want to point out that the PD ordinance includes a requirement for them to seek opportunity to provide a future trail in the 250-foot wide electrical easement that bisects the property that actually runs in the east-west direction. This will be addressed with the final plat. So the trails master plan shows a thoroughfare connector trail along the along FM 93. This is required to be 8 to 10 feet wide. The applicant's responsible for up to 6 foot width, and the city may choose to upsize to the additional width. A minimum 6 foot sidewalk is also required along Old Highway 95 and the remaining section of 93 spur. And then in addition, the PD ordinance requires sidewalks, as listed here, a minimum 6 foot on both sides of the collector streets with shade trees spaced at regular intervals, minimum 6 foot on 3 sides of the TISD property, and minimum 6 foot fronting on the multifamily portion when developed. This is in the Temple ISD, and the plat was determined to be administratively complete on April the 28th. So we recommend approval of this preliminary plat, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Commissioners, are there questions or comments?
When is TxDOT supposed to start on that portion of 93? This will be before that, correct?
I am not certain on the timing, Jason.
You're talking about the widening.
Correct.
Yeah, we don't have
There's not a date.
there's not a date on that. The two signals, the one on Old Highway 95 will come in first. And then the second one is based on the progress of the development.
So the signals are gonna be kind of a temporary until they get everything widened. Or they'll probably stay, I guess.
They'll
but-
stay, yes, sir.
Yeah,
They'll just have to be modified to account for the additional lanes
okay.
when and if that happens.
But into the subdivision, there's gonna be a aggress.
Deceleration and
Yeah.
acceleration turn lanes.
Got
This
it.
is easier to pronounce.
Yeah, I was looking for the right word, but yeah.
If there are no more questions or comments, I will entertain a motion.
I move that we accept item FY 25 17 PLT as presented by staff.
Second.
Motion has been made by Commissioner Smith and a second by Commissioner Morales to recommend approval of item number 7, FY 25 17 PLT to the City Council per staff recommendations. Tiffany, may we have a vote?
Commissioner Morales.
Aye.
Commissioner Walker.
Aye.
Commissioner Jurassic.
Aye.
Commissioner Rhodes.
Aye.
Commissioner Prager. Commissioner Longino.
Aye.
Vice Chair Smith.
Aye.
Chair Krause.
Aye.
The vote is unanimous and the motion carries.
Moving on to item number 8, FY 25 20 PLT. Consider and recommend action on the final plat of Leon Reserve Phase 2 of 40.11 plus or minus acre, 169 lot, 4 block, 1 tract, residential subdivision with developer requested exception to UDC section 8.1.3 related to residential subdivision entrance, access, design standards situated in the Maximo Morenos 2 or League grant. Abstract number 4, City of Temple, Bell County, Texas, located on the north side of East FM 93, approximately 0.5 miles east of the intersection with South Fifth Street, tax appraisal parcel ID 40918. The case will be presented by Principal Planner Cheryl Maxwell.
Thank you, Chair Krause. Again, for this one, an exception is requested, which requires City Council approval. So your action tonight will be to make a recommendation to the council. This is the vicinity map showing the location, Meadow Lake preliminary plat, again on the south side. And this is Leon Reserve, Phase 1, and then Phase 2, which you're reviewing now, is located towards the back or to the north. And this is an aerial view, again, showing the Phase 2 and the railroad property along the west side, and then frontage along FM 93. So the preliminary plat, we're showing both the preliminary and then phase 2. The preliminary plat was approved in June 2024 for 386 lots for a 2-phase development. It was zoned to PDSF2 in June of 2023. Phase 1 was approved in March this year with 217 lots shown here. Phase 2 now proposes 169 residential lots. All lots meet the minimum area and dimensional standards for the PD zoning, and they exceed the minimum 5,000 square foot required for the SF2 zoning. And then Tract A will be owned and maintained by the City of Temple for drainage, located in the upper corner. So with regard to access, phase 2 does not have any frontage on an existing street. Access will be basically through streets that are constructed in phase 1 that also connect to Cross Timbers Boulevard, which is a community collector street, 84-foot right-of-way and 36-foot pavement. FM 93, as we just mentioned in the previous case, a TIA was approved by TxDOT and included both this development and the Meadow Lake development on the south side, as well as the elementary school. And these are the same requirements that we just covered, including decel lanes and signalization at both the Cross Timbers and 93 Spur intersection with FM 93 and Old Highway 95. And then the Aguayo Way constructed as a right-in, right-out access. And these are also covered when we reviewed phase 1, which was earlier this year. On street projections, an exception was administratively approved for the railroad due to the railroad on the west side along the boundary there. So the applicant is requesting an exception to the entrance requirements. Full development for both phases, which would be 386 lots, requires 3 alternate design entrances. 2 are proposed with phase 1. Shown here, you've got Cross Timbers Boulevard and Aguayo Way. This would allow up to 300 dwelling units or lots. A 3rd alternate design entrance was proposed with phase 1, also with the preliminary plat, but it's located within phase 1 with a projection off to the east side. There's also a future projection, future standard entrance to the north side. These cannot count towards the requirement for a final plat because they do not currently connect to another roadway. So the exception, again, is requested to allow 2 alternate design entrances for full development of the 386 lots instead of the required 3 entrances. So staff has reviewed the request and we do not recommend approval where there are concerns with public safety. Again, the 2 entrances from FM 93 shown here are less than 500 feet apart, which basically kind of diminishes the effectiveness of each of those to function independently due to their close proximity. This is a high traffic area or will be a high traffic area with all the development. The TIA recommendations will help to mitigate the conflicts, but a separate entrance is needed away from this area that will be congested to ensure that there's adequate ingress and egress. So again, we do not recommend approval of the exception. With regard to utilities, public lines are available to serve the site. This was pretty much covered with phase 1. There's an existing 8-inch line along the south boundary of the development, and the applicant will be extending 6-inch and 8-inch lines throughout phase 1 and then into phase 2. And again, fire hydrants will be provided as required by the fire code. On the sewer side, there's an existing 8-inch line and 6-inch force main in the subdivision to the west. The applicant will be extending 6-inch lines throughout phase 1 and then also into phase 2. A lift station and force main will be developed with phase 1, shown here in this location. The force main will then extend westward and cross the railroad track to connect to the existing force main and sewer located on the west side of the railroad. There is no requirement for sidewalks or trails with this phase. They're all local streets and there's nothing shown on the Trails Master Plan. The park fee for both phases would total $86,850. An exception was approved with the preliminary plat to allow a private park in lieu of paying the fees based upon these amenities. And the private park will be developed on a tract in phase 1 that is required to be completed prior to acceptance of the public infrastructure for phase 1. This is in the Temple ISD, and the plat was determined to be administratively complete on April the 28th. So we recommend disapproval of the exception to the entrance requirements and therefore disapproval of the final plat as it's currently presented. If the exception is disapproved, only 300 lots total would be allowed, which There was 217 in the first phase, and I believe that would put it at only 300 that would be allowed with phase 2. And I'd be happy to answer any questions at this point. And again, the applicant does have a presentation that they would like to share with you also.
I think
Which
it'd be
I'll-
appropriate to have them do their.
Can we-
presentation.
I was going to say, can we
Do the
do the
presentation.
presentation first, please?
Clickers on the. Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry, I got it.
Hi there, I'm Skylar with WB Development. Sorry, I'm kind of prohibited from leaning forward on the podium, but I'll try to talk loud. Thank you for your time this evening.
Tyler,
Yes, sir.
if you want to pull that mic off, this hold the mic in one hand and clicker in the other. Is the clicker gonna-
No, it's okay, it's okay. Can y'all hear me okay?
Yes.
All right,
Yes.
I'll stand on my tippy toes.
I think it'll work.
Perfect. Alrighty, so we're here today to discuss the access and entry standards for Leon Reserve Phase 2. I apologize in advance for the amount of times I'm going to say entrance, but we're just gonna move forward with that. So the post-DRC comments for the final plat of Leon Reserve Phase 2 dated April 14th, 2025 address the subdivision entry standards, specifically subdivisions with more than 300 lots. I would like to note that Leon Reserve Phase 1 plat has already been approved and is not subject for discussion. We're here today for the plat approval of 169 lots within Phase 2 that themselves do not trigger any of the 300 lot requirements. Leon Reserve meets the 3 entry requirement through the implementation of approved alternative designs, which count as more than 1 entry point. I'd like to review the original TIA and residential subdivision entrance and access design standards, which I've printed out a copy for you all. So the original traffic impact analysis dated November 5th, 2022 describes the entrance intention as 150 single-family detached homes with 1 access point onto FM 93. Other options included additional detached homes at or above 300 with 2 access points onto FM 93. The ordinance number 2022-0022-0, page 2, number 3 states, a second access is triggered after 150 dwelling units as recommended by the traffic impact analysis dated November 5th, 2022. So the original TIA never required 3 entrances, but ultimately we accounted for this in our design. The residential subdivision entrance and access design standards defines figures 2, 3, and 4 as standard entrances. These standard entrances count as a single access point. The same residential subdivision entrance and access design standards defines figures 5 and 6 as alternate entrances. Each alternate entrance is the equivalent of 2 entrances as shown in the city detail note, kind of circled in red at the top there. So figure 5 has a width requirement, which delineates it from figure 3. And Leon Reserve Phase 2 meets the minimum entrance requirements through a combination of figures 3 and 6, which connect to East FM 93 in Leon Reserve Phase 1. So our entrance at Aguayo Way is a collector street with a 54-foot right-of-way. So figure 3 shows a standard design for a standard entrance of a local or collector street. The only difference, again, between figure 3 and figure 5 is the 41-foot minimum back of curb to back of curb requirement. Figure 5 is the equivalent of 2 entrances as shown on the detail circled in red there. So Aguayo Way meets the minimum standard of the 41-foot back of curb to back of curb, therefore equating to 2 entrances as per the city detail. Now, our main entrance to the subdivision will be Cross Timbers Boulevard. And this is relevant to Figure 6. Figure 6 is the equivalent of 2 entrances as shown on the detail. Cross Timbers Boulevard will be constructed as a neighborhood collector with additional right-of-way reserved for the city to expand to a community collector. Cross Timbers Boulevard exceeds the minimum width requirements of 41 feet, as each drive is 28 feet from back of curb to back of curb, or 56 feet cumulatively. And we have also included an 18-foot median. So with Aguayo representing Figure 5 and Cross Timbers representing Figure 6, based off of the detail, these account for 2 entrances each. I did briefly want to touch on the future street access as referenced in the residential subdivision entrance and access design standards section C. Does say future street access may satisfy additional entrance access requirements when a future street access is a component of an approved preliminary or final plat. So we had proposed a street extension at Lambkin Drive for a future entrance, as well as Cross Timbers Boulevard ending at the eastern boundary of the subdivision, anticipating that to be continued as properties to the east develop, and will provide a third alternative entrance equating to 2 entrances. So here we have the main physical entrance at Cross Timbers Boulevard, with the alternative design equaling 2 entrances. We have the physical entrance at Aguayo Way with the alternative design as the equivalent of 2 entrances as per the detail. And then the future street access at Lambkin Drive would be an additional singular access. And the future street access at Cross Timbers Boulevard with the continued alternative design equaling 2 entrances as per the detail. So additional access points aren't mandatory, but we're trying to demonstrate that we took the city's concerns about connectivity into account, and we stubbed out this community collector. So this road was designed to be a connection. The interpretation of standards is slightly confusing. So to kind of break it down, WBW has enhanced the 2 physical entrances by combining 2 alternate designs. So we meet and exceed the minimum entrance requirements with a combination of figures 2, 3, or 4 with figures 5 and 6. So what we're understanding, the city is saying we need 3 alternative designs, which would equate to 6 entrances. So that 3 right there would either need to be a 6, or the equivalent language needs to be removed from the detail. I know that was a lot to digest. I do have our counsel here today, Travis Parks, to kind of interpret any further questions you may have. Thank you for your time, and we'll go from there.
Thank you. Commissioners, do we have questions and comments?
Fire marshal is here.
I'm gonna say, I think it was very well prepared. If the city has anything to say to lead me otherwise.
I'll let the fire.
Okay. Happy to answer any questions, any specific questions.
Go ahead and say your name.
My
for the
name is
record.
Landy Setzer. I'm the fire marshal for the city.
So what is the city's concern versus what was just presented?
Okay, so I don't want to get too much into interpretation without letting Kyle go, but our interpretation has always been that a widened entrance is equivalent of to allow double the amount of dwelling units. It doesn't replace an actual physical entrance, and like I said, I don't want to speak too much without.
Yeah, essentially, if you look at the subdivision entrance standards, it's not actually as complicated as it seems. So you do have under both, you've got 2, 3, or 4 that are allowed. You can meet those figures and you can meet the design standard. However, if you look under alternate designs, you need to have the minimum cumulative street width of 41 feet curb to curb. So because of that, that's your difference from your standard design entrance. So 5 and 6 are the only ones that aren't included in standard design. And so those are, as we discussed in the previous presentation, an alternate design is equivalent to 2 standard design entrances. Once you get over 301 lots, we've interpreted it to be now standard design entrances aren't going to be sufficient. We need bigger roads because we have more throughput. We need more access for fire trucks, for emergencies, for just the general traffic too. And so we require 3 alternate design standard entrances because standard design entrances no longer matter. Going to the future entrances can be satisfied with a future preliminary or final plat. We do require that there be a preliminary or final plat that makes that entrance. So if you'll recall recently, well, I guess this may actually be before some of them, but North Creek Phase 1 had its third entrance through French Hill, which was already an approved final plat. And so that is how it was allowed to work. Although even there, we requested they have a temporary emergency entrance pending the actual construction of that third entrance. So that's how we've applied it. That's how we applied it in Meadow Lake today. I can certainly answer any additional questions you may have about how we've interpreted this.
Did what they present meet mathematically the equations and formulas for entrances?
No, it does not meet what we have interpreted.
So there's a difference of interpretation?
Yes, and if you'll read the UDC, in the UDC, let's see, it's UDC 1.4.1. It's the planning director in coordination with the director of public works and the building official, chief building official that's responsible for admin, interpretation, and enforcement of the UDC. So we typically go off of our interpretation. Now, granted, it's subject to the court saying you're absolutely wrong, but generally we go with our interpretation.
If you don't mind, I would like to respond.
Sure.
Again, I'm Travis Parks, General Counsel for the developer. First of all, thank you for your time and the opportunity to address you. Your question about interpretation. For starters, the Texas Supreme Court, along with the United States Supreme Court, has made it abundantly clear when it comes to interpreting ambiguous regulations. You must do so in a way that does not render another portion of that same provision meaningless. So when a 3 is a 3, you got to figure out a way to keep it a 3. You can't turn it into a 6. Now, if there's no way to do that, then maybe you're stuck with a 6. But the same with standard design and alternate designs. If you'll notice in figures 2, 3, and 4, they appear in both columns, which asks the question when the city attorney says that standard entrances no longer matter when sizes 300 lots or larger, why do they appear in the alternate designs? And I believe the answer is that they are supposed to be counted as one entrance for that number 3 that appears at the bottom. You go across the road from 301 plus to where there's a 3. A standard counts as 1, an alternate counts as 2. So you can do 2 plus 2 to get 4 and exceed the number as it's written here. It's the only way to interpret this regulation without rendering something in this provision meaningless. But on top of that, if you look right below it, underlined subdivision street entrance access design requirements may be satisfied with a combination of standard or alternate designs. So how are you going to do a combination of standard or alternate designs to reach a sum that is anything other than 1 is 1, 2 is 2, whatever? Why is there a separate number, 301 plus, over there for 3? And it's because that language in figure 5 and 6, where it says treat these as the equivalent of 2, it is the intention that P&Z interprets this as anytime you see a figure 5 or a figure 6, both of which appear in phase 1 of Leon Reserve, both of which are Aguayo and Cross Timbers, that they're supposed to be counted as 2. So you're already at 4 before you even get to the permissive things about those connections to other future subdivisions. I would like to also draw your attention to that permissive language about how to count future streets. It says that you can count one that's a component of another approved final or preliminary plat. Leon Reserve Phase 1 is approved. That entrance and exit, the future connection, is a component of Leon Reserve Phase 1. I think it's the intention, and it's in big red letters right across the top of that subdivision standard entry detail. It says this is for flexibility. This is to provide entrances in places where you do have shorter right-of-way. As long as you meet certain width requirements to provide for emergency vehicles, you increase the radius, you increase the width, you make it easier to get in and out, which WBW's designs not only did, but they did it in cooperation with the city. During the comment and review process, Aguayo Way was requested by the city to be widened to 41 feet back of curb to back of curb. And we did that. You know what happened to that comment? It was cleared. It was gone. No longer there. 212.009193 and 95 of the Texas Local Government Code say once that comment is cleared, it can't come back. So we cleared it thinking that we were good. We wrote a letter saying, we think we've met your standards, thinking that we were good. Only until yesterday or the day before did we finally get word that we're no longer going to recommend approval for this, despite the concessions, the flexibility, the changes in the design that we made to accommodate for not just 3 entrances like the 301 plus says in that table. We went ahead and put 4. We stubbed out a collector, which this is my rhyming moment here, that a collector isn't a connector doesn't make sense to me. Even when the connector, I know it's a stretch. You know, I'm not quite Johnny Cochran. I'm working on it, but you know, the glove doesn't fit, at least not in this situation.
Cheryl, can you pull up the map again of that area? With the.
That work?
We have another slide in our presentation, I think that might show it a little more clearly if that's the one you're looking for. But I'll let you drive.
I do believe it was. It had all the bubbles on the.
Okay, that was in ours.
Yes, correct.
Yeah, if you can pull that one up again, that's what we're looking for.
Okay.
I was looking.
I think it might be 1 or 2 up from here. Okay. Is this one of those ones integrated with the laser pointer? It doesn't work on the Oh
TV.
man, so close. I wish I had a cat. I would have just brought the toy, right? This collector, if I may, this one here, for a sense of direction, it fits on the screen better this way, but north is going that way to the right. So FM 93 borders the property going up and down to the left, where those 2 arrows where our 2 entrances are, situated in phase 1. On the back side, that's north. But this 110-foot right-of-way that connects where all of the TIA improvements, you know, the traffic signals, the turn lanes, the decel lanes, all of that stuff, the leftmost arrow in the middle of the page, that's where that's happening.
So in that first top arrow, her presentation for the 18-foot wide median between, that's that one, and then the second one right after.
Yes, sir, that is correct.
Is Aguayo, right?
Correct.
Whatever that road is.
Cross Timbers higher up Aguayo.
Okay.
I'm sure I'm slaughtering the pronunciation, but
yeah,
I guess we should have named it better, like Brown Road.
Okay.
That was probably taken, wasn't it? So yes, that's where that median, the 18 feet with the 228-foot back of curb next to it. It's going to be highly accessible. There's not going to be any turning radius and concerns. It's got a 17-foot radius for that turn, which was increased to accommodate for emergency vehicles. along with just not having people do curb checks when they turn into the neighborhood.
Kyle?
Is there any difference in this from the oversight and final plat of Bellaterra Phase 3 that allowed them to continue moving forward in the excess of the residences in there and not add another entrance or exit? Because there's future plan to connect to 93, but it doesn't.
There is a difference there because Bellaterra does have an emergency temporary exit. It is an emergency exit only. It's keyed with a Knox box, but that is a major difference between these two.
Okay, that's a good point. Is there a place to put there's
No,
nothing there?
There's only that frontage on 93.
I speak to that because case management about there.
And Deckman, I keep
Yeah.
going back to, 93, we're talking about two big subdivisions coming all of a
Right.
sudden. And and again, this has nothing to do with y'all. I'm just asking the question. But TxDOT, have they done any drawings to say what the plan is for that area?
I haven't seen any.
Okay.
If I may, I want to kind of respond
What'd you
to
say?
Commissioner Smith.
Okay.
It's on my flash drive if you're interested.
That's okay for right now, but I just didn't know if it was out there. Yeah.
I didn't know that it was out there.
At least it's out there.
Yeah. Nice that you got it before we did, but that's neither here nor there. Commissioner Smith, I want to address one of the things you brought up with Bellaterra. That was a different situation. Does have additional connections to an existing neighborhood to the north. During the rezoning, that was also planned development. And there was another stub, and I forget which number it was. It was either a fourth going to a private road.
It's in the back corner.
And council at the time, some of the neighbors came down and said, we do not want that additional access from Bellaterra north into whatever the name of that neighborhood is. So council approved the exception and did not require that entrance with the planned development. So when the plat came in, where those entrances were located was already baked into the ordinance on that one. And as Kyle pointed out, they did give us the gated access to, what's it, Barton?
Shouldn't entrances and exits count for the residents to live there as well? I
Mhm.
appreciate that
Yeah.
it works for emergency personnel. I
Right.
personally live in Bellaterra, so if there's emergency, I
Yeah.
would hope that they use that gate and go through there, but I can't use it to get out.
I was amazed by your
Yeah.
memory. So now I know you live there, so I'm good.
Well, and in the event of emergency, you would be able to just require one of the firemen to open that click to enter gate to let you guys out.
Well, yeah.
Go ahead, Kyle.
And just going back, if you can bring back up the subdivision entry standards. I kind of already addressed this in my initial comments, but as he said, you can't read something into non-existence. Well, if you count 2, 3, and 4 as both a standard and an alternate, what you are reading into non-existence is that minimum cumulative street width of 41 feet curb to back of curb to back of curb. So that is the difference when it says you can have it in combination, because we have that 41 foot back of curb on 5 and 6 or any of those others makes it an alternate design. Those would count as 2 standard entrances to meet that if you're in the 1 to 300 lot range. But once you're over 300 lots, all of your entrances need to be alternate designs.
And overall, we're talking about 300 lots to 380 versus 380. Is that right?
Yeah, 386.
Yes.
386.
Could I ask a question? I remember in your presentation, you said an alternate it can handle 150 lots. Is that correct?
One alternate, 150.
Okay, so looking up here, the 76 to 150,
Mhm.
you have one alternate there.
Yep.
But how many entrances are required? Is it just one? I don't know. I don't know the answer, and that's ambiguous. That's the problem. So when you have one that says you need 3, are we counting that as 2? Are we counting it as, do you need to have a third one? Do you need to have a fourth one? I can't answer that from this, but what I can answer is that every one of our streets is 41 feet or wider, meeting all of the standards listed in the alternate designs. And reading down there where it says using figures 1 through 7, we're counting them as the equivalents, like the standard tells us to get to 4.
But the difference in interpretation is it counts as two alternate design entrances. That's what that's what the city's, the staff's proposition is that it's two alternate design entrances, which gets you to the 151 to 300. You have to then say that it meets two of any entrance if it's 5 or 6, not just two alternate designs.
One more counterpoint down there in A. See subdivisions with more than 300 residential lots. Nowhere in there do you see alternate design as the number to count. It says 3 entrance access streets. When you look at the details and it says treat some of these as 2 entrance access streets. Subdivision subsection A right there says you've met it. It does not say anything about the alternate designs. And in fact, other than the word alternate design up at the top of this, I'm not certain it appears anywhere else in the standards.
It appears on the designs themselves.
Well, I mean, that's a label. Is that early enough? Why wouldn't it be an A?
And again, with A, where it says with more than 300 lots, they may be required to have more than 3 entrance access streets. Nothing in this initially gives them a requirement, but if you'll recall, we have had several PDs recently. I think Wildflower Estates, for example, where they were required to have more than 3 entrances once they hit a certain number of units.
If I were back in a courtroom, I'd yell objection relevance, but I'm not, so I'll just make the point that we're not talking about that today. It's never been imposed. It's never been a requirement.
Cheryl, when does this this goes to council on what date? Did you say that earlier? I'm sorry.
We have it tentatively scheduled for the 15th. I mean, I guess I would defer to Kyle whether or not it has to go to that one, or it could go to the following meeting for the council if there was some time needed between meetings, but yeah.
We needed to go to that council.
Mhm.
There's a shot clock on plats, so
But
it
30 days after P and
needed
P,
to go
right?
through.
Yeah.
Okay.
Commissioners, are there further comments and questions?
Want to hear from the fire marshal, Landy?
Oh, I'm sorry.
If you like. So what I'm gathering from all this, and our biggest, one of our outside of not meeting the entry standard is remoteness, right? So remoteness of the entries is important to us. So we have separation. So an event happens on one side, it is it does not affect the other entrance, right? So we don't find that here. And that is, like I said, with the railroad crossing on one side, which I spoke with Jason, and I'm not sure we've gotten a response back
Repeated, have not gotten an answer from UP.
from UP on the frequency of use on that railroad. So that is that direction of travel from fire engines, police cars, EMS vehicles is a concern with those entryways being as close as they are. The other thing that I did want to point out is by their math, I guess, like you could put a single entrance and have 300 houses behind it. When we look at stuff like this, we do go back and look and see what other people are doing. And model codes are already saying that if you have more than 30 residences, that you need to have a second and remote egress unless all the homes are sprinkled, but that's not a Texas thing, right? So I guess what I'm getting at is it would make it very hard for me to believe that whoever wrote this, their intention was to allow a single entrance with 300 houses behind it. And so I respectfully disagree with their interpretation of what the standard actually says.
But the standard says that, is that?
To clarify, we're not asking for one entrance. We have 2 that we're asking to be treated as the equivalent of 4 per the development code as written. And if
Well-
I'm done for now, let me thank you so much for your time. I know it's a pretty heavy load for a Monday. If it's still Monday, I'm not sure if it is.
Yeah.
Unless y'all are done, I'll.
Brian communicated.
Thank you very much.
Chair, one more thing to add from planning in terms of the sequence and the timing. We went back to what Brian would say was here. What was presented to council? What did they believe they were approving at the time? And during the plan development, he said that, it allows the density, the PD allowed the density of up to 389 lots. They're bringing in 386. But it was communicated at the time, it doesn't exempt them. They still have to meet the subdivision entry standards. During the preliminary plat, that language is in the staff report, that the subdivision entry standards would apply. And at no time was it communicated from staff that you qualify for an exemption or that you've already met to go over 300. So I think we've been consistent in what we've been trying to communicate. And if we've done a poor job communicating, then, we can work on that, but we've tried to be consistent what is going to be required, which is why we're here for them to request the exception to go to council.
So that was one of my questions. What was said at the council
Yes, sir.
meeting? I think you answered it. I think you
went
might have
back
a
and-
comment toward that.
We went back and watched the YouTube video, believe it or not. Turns out that's a good resource to have.
I watched it too.
Yeah,
You
that's
said
it.
to address the 300
That's
lot
it.
issue.
That's what Brian said.
Wait and come back up. What'd you say?
YouTube's available to everybody. I watched it too. It said we recommend approval as long as they address the 300 lot issue. My position, I know you're probably tired of hearing me say it. We addressed it. And to clarify, staff has asked us to make it a request for an exception. And my letter to them that I wrote said, we don't need to have an exception, but in the alternative, if for some reason y'all think that we do, here is a compelling reason to grant it to us. But as I stand here today, reading these subdivision standards, I don't see the need for an exception because of the way they're written.
Okay.
What's the width of the entrance into phase two? What is that? It's so small I can't read it. Something loop. What is the width of that entrance into the phase two section?
Good evening. My name is Juan Brizuela. I'm the project manager at this project. And right now, those are, local streets and 31, back a curb to back a curb because it's less than.
So 31 feet get you back into section?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
And as you can see, we have two connections in it. Two connections. Right there.
And those are both 31 feet wide?
Yes.
And
yes.
then the future use entrance at the top of the map, is that a 41 foot or is it also 30?
It's a 31 as well.
So it's 31 foot as well. How many lots are in phase two?
This is 167.
Okay.
$169, close enough, but $169.
Further questions and comments? If not, I will entertain a motion.
I go back to can I make another
Yes.
comment?
Yes.
I go back to the comment that years ago, we made this a commission. This is an elected commission, meaning the planning and zoning. And some of these things, sometime they need to go to council because they are an elected official. And so I don't know what y'all are thinking here, but I'm at the point of where we approve this the way it is tonight. And then we let it go to council and both sides can make that case at that time, because no matter what we're going to do here tonight is not going to make either one happy. And I haven't gone back to watch the YouTube. If I would have known, I would have gone back and watched it just to listen to it. But that's where I'm at. That's my comments. I don't know if any of y'all have any comments.
Could I just say whether it'll move forward to the council, whether your recommendation is for the exception or against the exception?
Unless we do a denial.
No, you'll still, if you're just making a recommendation to the
Okay,
council.
well,
either
then
way.
that's,
I mean, feel free to go either direction, but either way, it still will go to the council. You're
right,
just
that's,
making a
I
recommendation.
always look at it as if it's denied, then it stops until they reconcile. Okay. Anybody else?
I just think we, in the future, need to take a closer look at SF3 zoning. We see a lot more of it than we used to. I can't remember the last time we did an SF1 subdivision, but if this was an SF2, we wouldn't even be talking about it right now.
It is
And
the SF2.
This is,
Right.
It is too?
It's
Okay.
SF2, right? Yeah. Plan development, but SF2 is the base.
At one point, it started as a lower density zoning and they came back and
Right,
I remember being on the board when that happened, so
Right, correct.
maybe we overzoned it.
Other comments?
I think it's just like Adams and some of the others, we're gonna be behind the gun on when it comes to 93,
Yeah,
whatever.
it'll be 2030 something. by the time
Yeah,
they
I
widen
mean,
it.
it's once again, we're behind the gun, so. Okay, that's,
If there are no more questions or comments, I will entertain a motion.
I'm gonna make a motion to approve as stated in number 8 FY 25-20 PLT.
Second.
Motion has been made by Commissioner Rhodes and a second by Commissioner Smith to approve item 8 FY 25-20 PLT to City Council per staff recommendation. Tiffany, may we have a vote?
Commissioner Morales.
Aye.
Commissioner Walker.
Aye.
Commissioner Jurassic.
Aye.
Commissioner Rhodes.
Aye.
Commissioner Prager.
Aye.
Commissioner Longino.
Aye.
Vice Chair Smith.
Aye.
Chair Krause.
Aye.
The vote is unanimous and the motion carries.
Is there any further business? If not, the meeting is closed at
6:42.
6:42 PM.
I'm amazed my eyes.
It's